Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mad Camper and this is another video on GODFORGE. We're going to talk about GODFORGE. It's now that we've kind of stepped back, Alpha 1's done, Alpha 2 is a week away or so. It's an opportunity to kind of gather thoughts and talk about it and talk about some things that when I had to go from GODFORGE, which ended August 1st, back to playing Raid as my sole form of kind of meaningless entertainment, we'll call it. Gaming content, gaming ability, especially on the road when I can't bring all my fancy toys with me. Some of the glaring issues I see in Raid that have never truly been addressed that I'm hoping GODFORGE will address. So we're going to talk about that. Sort of here's some overarching things. It's nothing to do specifically with Alpha. We'll also talk about kind of Alpha 1, 2, and 3, Beta, and kind of going forward GODFORGE and what we have. I do also want to address something that a few people have asked me, and just so we're all on the same page, I wasn't making a video about it. I don't want to because I did it once, and if you start doing it multiple times, it's like, okay, stop baiting. I'm just not making content on Raid right now. You've probably noticed that. There's nothing on Raid in a while on this channel. I'm still playing it. It's actually right here. I'm looking at a champion right now in the game, but I'm just not inspired to make content on it. If something comes out that I feel like I want to make content on, I will. But this channel is probably not going to have any more raid-based resources. It's probably going to have more, high-level thoughts on the game or a game mode, or if there just happens to be something that I stumble across that I haven't seen anyone else talk about, those sort of things, just so we're aware. And if there's any collabs out there, someone wants to do a collab, I'm always happy to talk Raid and talk about my kind of experience with Raid. So with that being said, let's get to GODFORGE. Let's talk about where I see the kind. We'll talk about I think there's 3 or 4 major things that I'd like to see GODFORGE handle better than Raid has, and Raid just doesn't feel like they want to address or tackle or even be mindful of. And this is something that's not going to happen in the alphas. This is something that's going to have to happen when they get into beta, obviously. So we won't talk too much about that. It won't be too specific is what I'm trying to say, but it will be stuff that I just want to get out in the world, out in the verse, so that you guys know kind of my feelings on what kind of hurt Raid for me and how GODFORGE can hopefully do better. I think that's it. And then I also want to talk about, to start, we're going to talk about GODFORGE and my impressions now that we're sort of, a week removed from something new and cool that we all played. Okay. GODFORGE Alpha Wave 1. I enjoyed it. I finished it, per se, quote unquote. There was a lot more stuff I wanted to do, wasn't able to. We'll just shove that into Raid, Wave 2, and we'll figure it out. And it gave us a really good chance to see the core mechanic within the gameplay, and I like that. And for people who don't understand how these alpha, beta, these sort of things work, there's no defined world. There's general best practices, but I can call anything a game at alpha, beta, tri, meta, alpha, pi. Like, it doesn't matter. But generally speaking, what an alpha is to figure out your core systems and abilities and mechanics, and figure and find any of the big game breaking bugs, mechanic breaking bugs. Things like, oh, I just put 3 books into someone and they didn't show up. That's something you need to fix in alpha. Oh, something's broken. There's memory leaks that need to be resolved. These things are things you find in alpha. Core gameplay mechanics. Does the turn meter work? Do the basic abilities of each champion work within the confines of what they're supposed to do? If something boosts turn meter, are you actually seeing boosted turn meter? And of course, they have the chart on the, I guess it's this side over here, that shows you your turns. So is that working properly? That's what the alpha's for. And there'll be different versions of the alpha as they have different goals, and bug fixing will be the biggest part of that. So this next wave, I don't know if they're going to do the tower again, if they're going to offer cooler different things, they're going to expand it a little bit, but I'm expecting to just do the same thing again, but all the things that were broken are fixed. The tunes have been tuned, and we're going to see some improvements in that world. And Alpha 3, I think, they're going to have a little competition, but it's going to be similar again. And that's perfectly fine. I think we need to all be fine with that. Beta is where typically a closed beta and then an open. A closed beta is going to invite X number of people to then play the finished release ready product. I wouldn't say release ready, the release core. So now you're going to have the dungeon modes, the campaign, you're going to have that, and you're looking for everything and anything. Is there a spelling mistake? Is there load balance issues? Are there bugs? Always bugs. Bugs are always being fixed. Are there memory issues? Can we improve the memory? Are all the champions looking like they should? Are all their animations working correctly? That's where the beta is going to fix all that stuff within the entire game core. And I look forward to that. And, that could be a year from now, right? We don't know the exact timetable. That's up to them. And anything they said today for a timetable could change, as it has in the past. Originally, Wave 1 was supposed to be end of the year, wasn't it? Or beginning of this year? Now it made it to the summer. It was going to be Q1, now it's Q2. I shouldn't but that's how this works, right? You work on a timeline that's going to bring out a completed game. The last thing you want to do is a Cyberpunk, which arguably could be thought of as the best game of the decade. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, is it? I feel like I just said Ghost of a very nice sushi compliment. But I never played it, but I heard it was an amazing game. So maybe that would be, but I'm going to say Cyberpunk might be regarded in its current state as the best game of the last decade. But man, oh man, it really hurts that they stumbled and fell as poorly as they did, because it should have been better out the launch. Last thing you want is to launch like that. CDPR nearly came to his knees, and we're talking about a game developer that has, on the backs of one of the greatest games, arguably of all time, with The Witcher 3, and they still stumbled so hard that it nearly broke their company. If you're a startup on a first game and you stumble like that, that could be it. That could be the end. So, the Fateless crew will definitely do their thing. So, I'm looking forward to whatever waves we get in, whatever world we're in, and I look forward to trying to break the game so that when it comes to the beta release, it doesn't break the game. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about some higher level game flow. I'm going to call it game flow mechanics, game flow concepts that I feel that Raid broke and never ever addressed, not fully, not completely, not to the level of my satisfaction, at least from my perspective, and that I hope GODFORGE, and I suspect they will, but I hope GODFORGE has understanding and answers to. The first one is competitive modes. I feel like one of the biggest failings of the systems in Raid is how they deal with the different skill account levels within Raid when it comes to versus modes, and the dead accounts, or accounts that haven't played, or accounts that don't play that mode. So let's talk about that. First off, I didn't play Raid for about a week while I was playing GODFORGE. I dropped, and then that followed into a vacation with my wife for the long weekend up here in Canada. Well, we have the vacation up here in Canada, but I had 4 days in Seattle. So I didn't play much of any of Raid, a little sprinkling, but pretty much didn't play much of Raid. And so I was dropped down to Silver 4 in 3v3 and Gold 4. Here's the problem with that. I don't have a Gold 4 account, and I certainly don't have a Silver 4 account. And because of how Raid has created these ladders with no concept of how ladders actually work, seemingly, I am now a blight upon anyone in Silver 4 who's trying to progress to Gold 1, because if I show up as a and there's more than just me, there's thousands of my type of account in these silver ranks that now someone else has to fight, and they shouldn't have to. And moreover, I am overmatched for my account in Silver 4. I am outmatching everyone But I'm not. I'm having to fight champions that are as good or even sometimes better than me in Silver 4. And how a ladder should work is we're all 0, and then when I win, I go to 100, and if I lose, I go to -50. And as long as I keep winning, I move up the ladder, and therefore I'm worth more points to the people below me. There's a point at which I will settle out to where my account roughly should be, and my skill level at playing that particular type of versus a game, whatever it is, right? And the problem is Raid doesn't do that. So in Gold 4, I fought teams that are all +4, all 6-star ascended, all beef to the gills, where my 400 plus, which isn't a crazy speed anymore, but is certainly an endgame speed. 413 and 400, I think, are my two champions. I'm trying to think, Siphi and Arbiter, right? 413 Siphi, 400 Arbiter. I should be able to beat out most teams. I should be able to beat out every team in speed in Gold 4. It's Gold 4. And I had teams that their whole team was able to jump past me, even with me using some termite reduction mechanics and some everything, just because those few had such strong accounts. But why are they in Gold 4? And it's because obviously they've fallen like me. And boohoo me, 9 of my 10, I could just burn through that. A couple of them I had to skip. But if that's happening to me, I can't imagine what's happening to a 6-month-in player who's in Gold 4 trying to progress to Gold 5. The way that they're balancing the modes is broken. It was broken before when all these accounts fell to bronze that were all these high-end whale accounts of people that didn't play anymore. And now nobody could get out of bronze. So instead, they took player power and they pit you against player power. The problem is that's no longer a ladder. Now I have to fight in gold, in bronze or silver, these higher end accounts that are similar player power to me. But I am a fake player power because I have built 200 plus epics. Many of those still have gear on them. So many of those champions are still counting towards my overall player power, which means my 40 million player power is really probably 30 million, but I'm fighting higher end teams. And the whole system, that whole way they did that was like a band-aid on a bigger problem, and they refused to address it. And so my hope with GODFORGE and the hope of the developers is they consider a better ladder system by which if I am a better player, then I should be able to leap up to where I'm at or where my thing should be at a more expedient speed, especially when it's in maintenance. Like, I'm not trying to build my great hull anymore. I'm just doing my battles because the game tells me I have to do battles every week. So, and it's tied to 22% bonuses on some of my stats. So I want to be in Gold 5 for that, but I don't care about gold. I don't care about arena. So how do you deal with my account, my type of play? And I would argue Simon and Ash. There's a lot of people in that world. Maybe Ash likes to play in platinum, but he's not stretching for top 10 because frankly, he doesn't spend enough on that. And then if you look at like Drock, where he is pushing for top 10 all the time, how do you deal with that account? And God forbid any of the three of us take a couple weeks of vacation where we don't play the game, none of us should be in Gold 4. And I just hope that GODFORGE is a little more robust and a little bit more scalable on those, both to shrink and grow. Because here's the deal, more people played 3 years ago than now in Arena. And a lot of these dead accounts have fallen by the wayside. You have to be able to take those out of the game completely, but still have enough opponents for people to play. And I think that's the problem they fear, is that, especially at the higher Gold 5 and arguably Platinum, not Platinum because you have to play to get into Platinum, but Gold 5, especially in Gold 4 maybe, is that there won't be enough live accounts if they take out people who just don't play for several weeks. But if you have a properly scalable game, and you can maybe, even if it is, hey, if there's ghost accounts or whatever you want to call them, dummy accounts, AI accounts, at least that they are believable and challenging enough that it doesn't allow people to exploit that to just artificially jump into a level that they shouldn't be at either. So, the fact that we put one-man teams out there all the time just tells you how broken the system is with Raid, and I hope GODFORGE has a more robust player versus player system. And you can expand that to Siege. You can expand that to Hydra Clash, Chimera Clash, as well as 3v3, 1v1, and live. It's all the same thing. The underlying understanding of how they want to create PvP is broken, period. And I hope GODFORGE has a better thought of that. And it reminded me, playing this game again after being off for a couple weeks, at least regularly, how broken it is, how silly it is. And I can get around it because I have a big enough account to fight most of the teams, but there's players who are 6 months in that may quit the game because they've got a whole page of players like me who just took a couple weeks off. Okay. That's my first thought. I hope I don't have all the answers. I'm sure if they wanted to chat, I'm sure if you bring me on, we could think of it. We could brainstorm. But I'm just saying right now, I hope there's something in their world that they're thinking of. The second thing is the progression of champion and resources. And this is a big one to me. And this is why I'm not making content on Raid currently, because I made 200 plus epic guides. I would love to revisit guides on champions who've been rebuilt, who have found new life, who just need to be updated, as well as all the new epics that have entered the game and ones I just never got to build. But the reality is, here's the TLDR. If you have a champion and that champion's not one of maybe 30 epics, don't build it. That's the true answer. 90% of the guides I built are for people who are never going to get any further than the mid game. And so maybe you use this champion, because the reality is you shouldn't put a single book in any of those champions. And let me give you a scenario. And this is what I mean. And this is where I hope GODFORGE has a better, more robust, bigger picture idea, and not just a financial one that I feel like Plarium made for this. Say you pull Juliana first of all, say you're playing the game, so you saw it in the game shop, so you didn't get any codes, you didn't get any links, you didn't get any chases. This is you starting fresh as a player, has no idea about Raid, and you didn't know about all the freebies you can get because you're not a big YouTube person. You just jumped on the game on your phone and you download it and you went for it, right? So you're playing the game, you have no epics, you have your starter champion, you pick hopefully Kale, but maybe you pick any four of them. Who cares? It's a rare. And now at some point you're going to start pulling shards. And maybe you're smart enough to look and go, hey, you know what? This is probably something I should save. I noticed there's some events and special things. So you save up your shards for a while. You get through, the first few days. You're not try hard, so maybe it takes you a couple weeks to get through campaign and you're playing along. And at some point you realize, clan boss is important. So you're running through, and then you decide to do a shard pull. You pulled a couple of those shards early before you knew what to do, and you get Juliana. Like, oh, this looks like a good kit. You test her out. You kind of understand what's going on. You have a general understanding of these style of games, so you're feeling pretty confident. You're like, oh, Juliana looks good. Juliana is a mid-game champion. She's useful. She's helpful. She can be helpful in multiple areas of the game, but at some point she needs to be replaced. But you don't know that, you're playing. So you have Juliana, and she requires, I believe, like 15 books. Her important one, her A3, requires 7 books to be fully realized. And yes, you can use her without putting any books. But the reality is, if you're an early mid-game and you're trying to progress in any area where her HP burn is going to help you, say, clan boss, and she doesn't land that's 4 turns till you can try to land it again. And you only get so many turns in the clan boss. So if you have to wait 4 turns on her and you're early enough, you're not 2-to-1 cycling or anything, you've basically killed a ton of her damage. And it's a 3-turn HP burn. You need that HP burn. Well, what about the dragon? Maybe that burns the difference between you all getting stunned as a team or that dragon's kind of special unlocked ability not triggering. Right? And if you don't land it, you're trouble. So you want to have those books in her for her to be fully realized and useful. So you start putting books into her, and you have 10 books. So you put 10 books, you get to level 6. So you're 10% away, 90%. Pretty good. You're using her. You're slowly progressing as you put books, and you're so happy. Now, it's a month later. You've got books into her. You don't have her fully realized. And now you pull Geomancer. Well, now, Geomancer, at least in Clan Boss, directly replaces Juliana, arguably in Dragon as well. Probably anywhere else you'd be using her outside of maybe Arena. So now your mid-game champion, your Juliana, which is a great progression champion, great starter for you. You're probably still going to use her, but now Geo is your best champion. And Geo is an endgame epic. So now you have to save for Geo, right? Now you have to build Geo. And say you got a couple others. Maybe you got Ostrux, which, you heard in the forums. You're not going to YouTube, but at least you're hearing for that he's a decent champion here and there. So you want to put resources into him. But Geo's the one. You got to start with Geo. Okay? 2 weeks go by, you've put 3 or 4 books into Geo, you haven't finished Juliana's books, you don't have enough books for Geo because the resource balance in the early mid game for this champion for progression is terrible. It's embarrassingly terrible. Let me tell you, the end game, Epic, I've used Epic books on food just to get enough CVC points because at the end game, the books are silly. If you spend, the books are or whatever. But if you're very low spend, you're spending just on energy, or you're just, you've got a small budget, you're a younger person who can't afford it. You're paying rent at $2,000, $2,500. You don't have time for that. Or you're under the age of 18 and you don't want to spend money. You can't spend money. Whatever the reason is, there should be this balance, and there isn't. So now you've got Juliana not fully realized. You got Geo, who you've started. You're 2 weeks later. It's a 2x Void event now, and you pulled Demetha. Well, now you've heard that Demetha is the answer to Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, which is where all the goodies are. But how do you build her? You don't even have enough books for Geo. You don't have enough books for Juliana. And you realize this huge remorse that you spent books on Juliana and you can't get them back. Now, I don't prescribe to being able to get them back. What I want to see GODFORGE do, so to alleviate these scenarios, is give more epic books in the early game so that people can realize their epics. Now, I also know from playing it a little bit as I have, rares might and probably will be a little bit more important as compared to raid. Maybe think raid in the first year when there were a lot more rares that could help you through things, not just because you had a secret room that expected it, but because legitimately Apothecary was a big win, your starting champion was a big win, there's others, Painkeeper, etc. You've got that Renegade, Cold Heart, we can go on forever, right? These champions have become less effective, but not terrible. But I think that GODFORGE is going to be a lot more reliant on these for the early mid-game into Epic, into Legendary. But my point still stands. I should be getting enough resources that I can use and rely on Juliana and put the books into her safely so that she can fully realize her potential, so that by the time I get the next Epic, I don't feel remorse for having spent even a single resource on Juliana. The game of Raid requires you to hoard your resources so significantly that you can't have fun progressing through the early game when you get a champion like Juliana or Talia or any of these other wish-wash mid-tier champions that may help you get from, say, Brutal to Nightmare 3 key until you get a Geo and a Demetha, and that you still have resources for Geo and or Demetha in a relatively reasonable amount of time. And I would argue, having built a lot of these epics and having to spend a lot of money on these, and that was with, by the way, getting resources from Plarium as a content creator for much of that time, still running out of books all the time and having to sacrifice making a video because I had to wait till the next week or till I just got random luck and got another epic book, for example. So my point is, my whole thing here is the progress of champions through the rare epic world and the cadence at which you can build out these champions and use them and then not feel like that horrific gut-wrenching, I wasted a ton of resources on Juliana, even though she was good for me until I got Geo. Now that I have Geo, I wish I could just rip all those books out and put in Geo, and I have buyer's remorse sort of thing, right? And I just want a smoother transition there. And even if it's a longer transition, right? Where Juliana would be good for months until I get the next epic or something like that. I just love to see something a little bit more well thought out as you play through month 1 through 6, right? 0 through 1 is fine in Raid. I have no problems, especially for new players. 1 through 3, I'd say, if you're a savvy veteran. But if you're not, this game punishes you everything you do, you get punished for. And I hope that GODForge has a better, not a freebie, not a just use your here, just take all the books out and put them in this champion. It shouldn't be free. I think there should be some thought and process when building out a champion, and that if that champion is working for you, you should be able to use that champion for a longer period of time. And if you are truly moving on from that champion, well, so be it. But you shouldn't get punished every time you do that either. So there's my second thought. And my third thought, my third kind of overarching hope that GODForge gets it better, is the progression of my time. Best way to put that is the clan bosses. So the Demon Lord is now maintenance, right? I have a team. The team works fine. I can do auto battles. Great. Hydra is now maintenance. I can do auto battles, etc. Chimera is not yet maintenance. The problem is, this is over a 6-year lifespan that this has happened. This should be happening on a much quicker. When we first started playing Demon Lord, we had to do it manually. We had to work on it. We had to really tune it in. But 6 to 9 months later, even a year if you want to argue that, it's time to move on. Well, it took more than a year before Hydra came out. And it took longer than that for Demon Lord to become full maintenance. There was auto, and then we could, there's ways we could set it up to make it easier. But auto took a really long time. Then Hydra played out, and it got to that same point that Demon Lord previously had. And it took too long to get that into maintenance, into auto. And here's the thought. I understand that you want me in your game. And GODForge, this is my hope and wish. You're going to want me to be in your game. I get session data. I get session time. It's a big matrix. It's a big KPI for mobile gaming. You want me in your game longer. The longer I'm in your game, the more likely I am to spend. It's a very simple, proven relation in the background. And that's fine. But there's a point at which Demon Lord no longer was that thing. And you need to have the timing so that when Demon Lord starts waning, Hydra becomes available. And then it's not like you're losing my time. I'm just taking the time I used to spend on Demon Lord, and I'm now dedicating to Hydra. Demon Lord's still there, but it's now a maintenance. It's now an auto battle. It's now a quick battle. Whatever the case, whatever mode or however you want to do that. And then Hydra, we used to get sweaty on that. I used to spend hours on it. But there's a point where that becomes boring. It becomes old. Let's get that. So then Chimera needed to come out. And Chimera was about 3 years later than it should. And now Chimera's been out too long, and there's no replacement to it. There's no time replacement for that weekly kind of mode that I'm going to dedicate more than just a nominal amount of time to. And I'll tell you, it's suffering because I don't want to play Chimera anymore. So it's on a rotation that's Force Affinity when it goes over to the alternate forms. I have Toshiro. That is against me. I don't do one key anymore when that happens. And there was a time that I would bring up an alternate team to make sure I could get my one key. Now, I just run 2 keys. I run 1 key for the clan to get the points I can, and then I run auto battle a second team in Ultra Nightmare. That should not be what I'm doing. That shouldn't be it. I shouldn't be at a I don't care moment. And if I am, Chimera needs to be in auto mode, and I need to move on to the next thing so that you can have my time. Because instead of having my time like you want, you've made it so I don't care, and you've actually reduced the total time I'm playing in the game, because I'm no longer spending an hour or hours in Chimera weekly. I'm not doing it in Hydra. I'm not doing it in Demon Lord. And at some point, if there was a fourth thing that now I'm playing that time, Chimera's time sync now goes into a new mode, and Chimera becomes auto, then I'd be good with that. I'd be like happy, and let's do this. But because you don't have that stepping stone for me, I'm at the point where I don't care enough about Chimera, but you don't care enough about my time to give it back to me. So it's in this weird place. And you could say that about any game mode. If you look at that as the one game mode, I would say maybe the next drop is the standard wave boss modes, which is the dungeons, which is Faction Wars, which is not Doom Tower, which is Curse City. Those 3 modes are kind of interchangeable. When dungeons got boring, we all hit level 20, great. Then you brought out 25, and I think that's fine as a mode. It's not as robust as bringing out a whole new area, but at least you're being respectful and saying, here's new things for you to challenge, because we know you're bored with the old things. The old things should be maintenance. When you brought out Faction Wars, dungeons should have become maintenance. And now Faction Wars was what I was working on. And after Faction Wars gets to a certain point, then we move to the next. And same with the Cursed City. The Cursed City at first was me wanting to do it. Now it's at the point where I want more just quick battle, auto battle, and move on. And you haven't given me those things. And it's like, I'm only going to give you so much time. Some of us, it might be 5 hours a day. Some of us might be 1 hour a day. Some of us might be 30 minutes a day, and you have not been respectful. Raid has not been respectful, and that's what GODFORGE really needs to balance that out. Whereas I would probably play 3 hours a day of Raid if I felt like I wanted to play these different areas and do these different things. And it really, I just can't be. I haven't been inspired enough by any of them. They tried a little bit with the event dungeon, which was kind of neat for a little while, but then they overtuned it. Like you gotta be mindful of what the time bracket you have to work with, and then build your game within that cycle, I guess is the best way to put it. So GODFORGE, if I'm giving you 2 hours and that's what you know what you're gonna give me, your concern shouldn't be how to get me to 3 hours. Maybe that's an overarching thing. How do we get the 2 hour to 3 hour? But your real concern is how do you shift and create and create new and make cool new stuff that I will continue to give you 2 hours a day, every day for 6 years, and then hopefully spend money all the rest of the stuff that makes your company successful. So those are the 3 things that I'd love to see on an overarching world, along with my thoughts on where the alpha is going, my excitement. I'm really looking forward to GODFORGE. I will say a few things in closing. Some people, a noticeable group of people were talking about how they felt the graphics weren't as good. And I just, now that I'm back playing in Raid and doing my Raid battles and stuff, I realized that the reason isn't that the graphics aren't as good. Now, they're going to polish them. They're going to touch them up. It's because they're closer to the action. If I go into, I'm looking at, I'm trying to look for a mode that I actually have a key in. I think I have one in and you guys can't see this, so it doesn't matter for you. If I were to go into Hydra and I were to do my third key here, and let's not quick battle it. Let's just get in here. I am so far away from my champions. My champions are like this big on the screen. They're about the same size as on right below. Where are we? Right below. You see the like Phoenix and Ursula at the ends? That's about how big they are on the screen. You know how easy it is to make them look high density, look pretty when it's that far away? Scroll, and even when I scroll in, they're about half the size as they were in GODFORGE. So one of the things I've considered is GODFORGE is bringing you a lot closer into the action right now. And because of that, I think that they've put themselves in a position where they got to really up the ante on some of the detailing of their champions because you're so face-to-face close in. And just a kind of a random thought in my head about that I thought I'd put somewhere in a video. Why not this 30-minute behemoth where I've over-talked far too long? Overall, I'm really excited about GODFORGE. I'm excited about what I've seen early on. For those of you who are not into testing games, give yourself another year. If they tell you differently, great. But wait for betas where you're going to start seeing the complete game. And at least the framework of what they're trying to create. Anyway, that's all for me. I want to thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Please be kind, be safe. Look forward to August 13, 14 area. We'll be making more videos for Wave 2 of GODFORGE. If you like it, like it. If you want to subscribe. But most importantly, be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.